Hello and welcome to Ian's Music Room. Today we shall be looking at ideas on music practice and performance. These ideas and concepts came from a workshop I attended at Bass Player Live in 2007 by the bassist and educator Gerald Veasley. The workshop was a total revelation for me, and I really appreciate the lessons learnt, and I use them every day for myself and with my students. So full credit goes to Gerald Veasley. I want to keep this video quite short, and as there is a lot of information, we'll do a brief overview and then delve a little bit deeper into a few of the ideas. Section 1 is about music practice, or slaying the dragon. The obstacles are time, direction, boredom, and motivation. And the solutions are, for time, it's the 25th hour or mental practice, the practice we can do away from our instruments. Solution for direction is vision or goals, and we'll come back to that later. For boredom, it's repetition and press play. I have a YouTube playlist called Just Press Play, which is inspired by Gerald Veasley's press play solution for boredom. And I'll put a link in the description below for this. And the final solution is for motivation, which is the ATM and 5-minute rule. Let's come back to two of these points: direction, which is vision and goals, and motivation, which is the ATM and 5-minute rule. On my handout from the workshop, I wrote down a statement that Gerald Veasley made, which is, the main thing is to make the main thing the main thing. Okay, so what does that mean? Let's explore. In music, as a musician, what is your vision? What is your main goal? What do you want to achieve? If we ask these questions and explore the answers, we can find the main thing that we want. Then we can prioritize and focus our energy and time, our learning and practicing, to work towards the main thing. This is the most important aspect to realize for practicing music. So we could say, it is important to prioritize our energy and time in working towards our vision and main goal, which is easier to understand, but not quite as interesting as the main thing is to make the main thing the main thing. Let's now explore motivation, the ATM and 5-minute rule. The ATM refers to the old hole-in-the-wall cash machine, a little bit out of date, and now we could say swiping your bank card or iPhone to make a payment. The point is that it is something that makes a regular task easier. So what can we do to make our music practice easier, and what barriers can we remove? Have a think about the way you practice to come up with some solutions. One of the big things that I have seen for myself and my students is in creating a space in our home with our music stuff set up and ready to go. Imagine if every time you wanted to practice, you had to take your instrument down from the top of the wardrobe, take it out of its case, find your music books, cable, tuner, amp, if relevant, music stand, maybe a chair, and set it all up. That takes a lot of time and effort, even before you play a single note. If this is the case, how often do we simply not bother because it's too much of a pain? Instead, we can make a dedicated music space in our home to have our instrument out on the stand ready to use, to have an amp and cable plugged in if relevant, a chair if required, music stand with our current music books on it, a tuner, a metronome, all ready to use. Now all we have to do is sit down, pick up our instrument, plug it in with electric, and start our practice. Easy. I understand that all our lives and circumstances are different, so we might not be able to achieve our perfect setup for music. I know this is definitely the case for me, but we can do our best. We can be creative and think of how we can remove barriers and make our practice setup better and easier to pick up our instrument and play. Next, we have the 5-minute rule. The 5-minute rule is fairly simple. Sometimes we don't feel motivated to practice. Maybe we feel we want to, but don't have enough time, or it just feels difficult to start. When this happens, we can use the 5-minute rule. We can say to ourselves, I'll just do 5 minutes of practice and then stop. And maybe even set a timer for this. This relieves the pressure of having to do a long practice, and it makes it easier to start, as it's only 5 minutes. When we complete our 5 minutes, we have succeeded, and this feels good. Quite often, when we succeed in our 5 minutes, we find the motivation to continue and do more, which is even better. Section 2 is about music performance, or we found the enemy, it's us. The idea here is that we create a lot of our own obstacles that we need to overcome, and they are the restless mind, conquering our music fears, and that's a big topic, and the 4 deadly C's: criticizing, complaining, comparing, and competing. Let's have a bit more of a look at the 4 deadly C's. First up is criticism, or negative criticism. Negative criticism serves no useful purpose for anyone and is toxic, so let's just not do it. Negative criticism makes us feel bad about ourselves, puts us in a defensive mode, and builds resentment. None of these things help us to learn, practice, and perform better. Instead, we need to build ourselves up to feel good and confident. We can be honest in a kindly way and get to know our strengths and challenges. Then we can play to our strengths and work on improving those areas that are challenging, doing all this in a positive and proactive way. Next up is complaining. For some, complaining can sort of make them feel better in the short term if something went a bit wrong. For example, oh, the audience weren't responding, or the lights were too bright, or there's something wrong with my instrument. It gives a convenient explanation for something that wasn't what we wanted. However, complaining leads to a downward spiral of negativity, which can become our default mode. In turn, this reduces our capacity for creativity, problem solving, and intelligent thought. Instead, we can shift our focus onto things which went well, finding things to appreciate in our musical performance. And if something did go wrong, we can see what happened, acknowledge it, and learn from it. So be solution focused. Comparing. Comparing ourselves with others serves no useful purpose. It can make us feel bad when we compare ourselves to those that are better than us, or make us feel conceited when compared to those people who we might feel are worse than us. These phrases are horrible and really toxic for ourselves and those around us. Instead, we can ask ourselves, how am I doing? This can help us to focus on our needs, to learn and improve and work towards our goals. Finally, we can celebrate our own and other people's success. Celebrate that you did your first gig. Congratulate a friend who played a brilliant solo in a concert. And be thankful if you get a single nice comment on YouTube or a million views. And last up, we have competing. This is subjective and may be controversial for some viewers. Please bear in mind that this is just one view and one opinion. Feel free to agree or disagree in part or whole as you see fit. Traditionally, the world of music can be very competitive. There is a case to be made that competition can motivate some of us to do better. However, a negative aspect of competition is it can make us feel anxious, focus on the reward rather than the music itself, and can see other people as barriers, competitors, that are in our way to our success. I would say that a healthier way is to focus on oneself, our own goals and ambitions, and how we can reach them, without the need to beat others in the process. This leads to our own success, as defined by ourselves. Also, an interesting question to ask is, how can we collaborate with others if we are competing with them? If we set aside competing, we can open ourselves up to creating music together. And this can lead to wonderful opportunities and outcomes that we might not otherwise have. I'll leave competing for now, as it is highly subjective, and I hope it can spark some healthy debate. Just please respect other people's opinions and views, even if they are different to your own. For more information, I'll put links in the description below of my Just Press Play playlist and links to Gerald Veasley. Thank you for watching. It's very much appreciated, and I hope it has been interesting and of some use. As ever, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell.